Ted Turner's dead. Breaking news.
I actually don't know who that is.
Oh. You don't know who Ted Turner is?
I mean, I've heard the name, but like.
He's a media icon.
Yeah. Was he CBS or no? He started CNN.
CNN. Yeah. No.
Oh, as in
Ted,
like TNT Turner Network.
Yes, Turner. Yeah, Turner Classic Broadcasting. TNT, TBS.
What an eccentric guy too. He also had a goal at one point of he wanted to buy land contiguously from Canada all the way to Mexico, and then ride a horse on his land all the way from Canada to Mexico. I don't think he did it. I don't think he was able, like he couldn't quite get the land lined up, but that was his goal originally.
No, an American original, famously non-monogamous, was with who's the actress? Jane Fonda.
I don't know.
Yeah. Oh no, he was a coxman. Ted Turner. And then, of course, cable legend, made the Atlanta Braves the national team, invented CNN. I was actually recording a interview with Evan Scrimshaw for Friday's PX3, and he's like, "Yeah, my like crazy take that I would pitch to a magazine is that Ted Turner ended democracy because he created CNN, and that was the beginning of the
24-hour
nationalization
news
of politics."
Yeah. Both it was 24-hour news. That was CNN, wasn't it? And as well as the cable, nationalization. Yeah, because prior to that, like there's that Norm Macdonald joke, I think, that, back in the day, we had about an hour of news. And it turns out that's right. There's about an hour of news. 24-hour news, though, having worked on a 24-hour news channel before, or at least a 14-hour news channel, you can't say we already covered that. You can't do that.
No.
You have to come up with bullshit or reiterate the same stuff and just over and over and over again. And what does really well nationally? Culture war issues and wedge issues.
I still think that there's plenty of news in the world if they bothered to actually do the news, but instead they're just filling it up with debates and
news that people
trash.
Watch.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Yeah, but I think that if you had news, we've had this debate before, but if you had news from around the world, there's interesting stuff, but you have to give it to people in order for them to care about it. I would like a boring old news station that just tells me the news for 24 hours, but we don't have that here.
Are you acting like C-SPAN's dead?
C-SPAN's not dead. The C-SPAN's not 24-hour news.
They're 24 hours.
They're 24 hours, but it's like book TV and shit. Like, not talking trash on C-SPAN. We all know I love C-SPAN, but like, I do want to know what's going on in the other part of the world. But CNN would rather have, idiots yell at each other instead of actually giving the news. I think that's where they went wrong.
Well, I mean, the problem, as always, is relying on television to give you news. Television is not a medium to give you news. Television is a medium to entertain you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is not there there is no such thing as television news.
There could be. That's a choice that's being made.
No. It's just a bad medium. It's a bad medium for it. It's not. Yeah.
What? That's nonsense. You're able to give audio, video, and context to things. You can show things in a way, like it could be an amazing medium, but people have chosen to turn it into
No. What I mean when I say it's a bad medium is on the show that I worked on, where we were trying very, very hard to be intelligent, to bring on intelligent guests, to bring on people that we disagreed with, that we thought were smarter than us, because we wanted to do the best job we could, providing good ideas and content to people. In that context of us doing our best, we had our longest segment, 8 minutes, that had 3 hosts on camera and usually 1 or 2 other guests. So for an 8-minute segment, everybody was getting about 2 minutes to discuss some very big topic. That means that just the format of it has to boil everything down to a bumper sticker. And there are people that excel at it in the same way that there are people that are better at haikus than novels, but it's not a medium that is good for conveying depth or nuance.
Yeah, but all of that was choices. Like having the 8-minute segments that you put one subject in those 8 minutes, like that's a choice. Breaking it up every 8 minutes, that's a choice.
Well,
the advertising model, that's a choice. Television itself as a medium doesn't have to be the way that it is. CNN didn't have to choose to go and like Fox and all the rest of them. They don't have to do it this way. They're choosing
but you do.
To.
Yes, I don't disagree with your idea that television is in and of itself a shapeless form of clay that you can fashion the way that you want. And there are people that do it different ways, but there are reasons beyond just stupidity and greed these are the forms that they take. If you want to have the kind of staff, if you want to be able to have somebody live in Kuala Lumpur to go live to explain the international stories that you are hungry for, you need to be bringing in a certain amount of money. You need to pay for a certain amount of satellite uplink. And that means that you do need to have some form of revenue coming in. And the most readily available is advertising. My largest thing on the reason why it's just bad for news is, to Heaton's point, it's a linear medium. So unlike the internet where you can stop, start, watch whenever you want, you are broadcasting on a linear channel. And so therefore all the form that wraps around it is based on top of that. So that means that you are only expecting people to watch for X amount of time because they only, statistically have X amount of time to watch, which means you do need to repeat things because you don't want to necessarily leave somebody out because they joined in at a certain moment. The internet is fulfilling the promise of what you want. And that's the reason why the internet is a better medium for delivering news than television. Television is an inherently bad one, and I am deeply racist against television news.
Me too.
That's
I'm a race trader, having worked in it. I don't think as a format it is good for convey. And then there's just all these other things too, because it's mass appeal rather than long tail. With mass appeal, you are penalized for being nuanced. You have to be able to reach the lowest denominator of understanding, which generally means you're going to have to boil things down to a binary. And there's all sorts of different things. Yeah, like I think television is great for entertainment. I think it's better to go with long form interviews on podcasts or produced podcasts, or alternately written word for things that have depth.
There's no reason why you can't do any of that on television. Like, these have-tos are not have-tos. They're still choices.
It's still a linear medium.
It doesn't matter, but you can have an hour-long interview. Break it up with your fucking commercials if you want to, but if it's interesting. I know. And so this is what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't have to be bad for news. Some of the most interesting stories we've ever known have been told to us on television. I don't know. I just don't buy the idea that the medium itself is not fit for news.
You are running uphill to do it. You are running uphill to do it is my larger point. If I'm not going to be, I can be more inflammatory about it, but like saying that everybody who works in television is stupid. And that's another thing, is that it's inherently a visual medium. And so therefore you get people who are dumber. But in general, there is just...
Wait, now hold on, Justin. Our Secretary of Defense came out of television. How can you possibly think that somebody that symmetrical could be Secretary of Defense based on looks rather than wit?
Again, you are selecting people to be on television because their heads are misshapen in a way that reflects studio lights. You're not doing it because they are either great communicators or let alone smart. Which brings us to our emailer. The eyes have it, right? Bob Costas got pink eye at the Olympics, Heaton, not Jim Acosta.
Apparently, I know nothing about Jim Acosta other than you and Michael Tracy got mad at him, or he got mad at you. I think that's all I know about him then. I've been confusing Bob Costa with Bill.
Bob Costas. Also arrogant.
I could not pick Jim Acosta out of a lineup as well.
If I showed you a picture, do you think that you would? Let's see.
Sort of a girthy Kirkland version of George Clooney. Like if you took George Clooney and then you had him run through
insulting to George Clooney.
Copy machine several times.
Disgusting.
George Clooney's hot.
Do you know who he is?
No.
Okay.
I see what Andrew's saying about the George Clooney, but like,
no. If you took George Clooney, you ran him through a copy machine and then you Xeroxed that and then you Xeroxed it again. Eventually you'd get Acosta.
And add a healthy dose of inflammation.
Yeah.
I will say that his eyes are far more sunken in real life. I don't know what was happening in his main publicity photos, but his eyes are very sunken, like a man who lives a life of regret.
So have you made an enemy for life out of Jim Acosta now?
No, I'm just glad that we actually had a physical altercation, because now I can just more put out my feelings about his art.
Jim, who the fuck are you, Acosta?
Yeah, he's a bad, he makes art consistent with a bad person. I think he's a disingenuous person who climbed a ladder in a very dumb medium and now has parlayed that, being in a mass market medium. He has parlayed that into the our world of internet stuff. And now he just kind of feeds the gaping maw of grievance of whatever the kind of like strain of resist lib thing that people want to talk about at the moment. He has no compunctions. He has no scruples. He does not ever go against his own narrative unless that narrative is contradicted by the political party that he serves to boost, right? So it's like, I'm sure there's plenty of clips of him on CNN poo-pooing Epstein, because back in the day, the Democrats used to be very defensive of the idea that Epstein was not a big deal and it was a right-wing fever dream. Now he has people on his internet show talking about how the Epstein class is ruling the world, and there are unpublished files that would, raise everybody's hair. So again, dumb person, possibly bad person. I feel confident in saying he's dumb. I don't know his heart, so I can't say that he's bad.
Well, this is
besties.
the Heat and Hack test that I put out for people. I'm naming it after myself. I'm not saying I'm a hack.
Good.
It's the test that I use is this. If a given person wanted to be a hack, they wanted to make money by being reflexively partisan and demonizing the other team and just doing schlocky partisan bullshit, what would they do differently than they're currently doing? And if you can't think of anything, they're probably a hack.
Yeah, I was thinking about writing a long read thing about like, what is a journalist? Because that was what that whole fight ostensibly was about, and there has been this casting of aspersions of like, is Michael Tracy a journalist? Michael Tracy has cast aspersions to Julie K. Brown, who won a Pulitzer, a retroactive Pulitzer this week for her coverage in 2018 about the Epstein stuff. And then Jim Acosta, was the mayor of Journalism Town and was declaring who was and wasn't a journalist. And Michael Tracy is an internet troll. Julie K. Brown is a journalist. And so I kind of feel like that term is very weird. Like, I don't know. I would not consider, people call me a journalist. I tend to think of journalist as a reporter, but a reporter is not necessarily a journalist. Is a news analyst a journalist? I guess I'll ask you guys. What is a journalist, Jen?
For me, a journalist is someone that looks for news and like gives you something new. So it's like here on We're Not Wrong, I don't think I'm doing journalism. On Congressional Dish, when I'm reading a bill and telling you what's in it, that I think is journalism. I would call this analysis or punditry. Yeah. I would call that journalism.
Analysis and punditry, not journalism.
I would say it is separate.
Separate from journalism. Heaton?
Despite the fact that I've now won 8 awards in journalism, I do not think of myself as a journalist. I think of myself as an entertainer, and I happen to be in a playground that deals with politics. So occasionally I'll refer to myself as a journalist in a contextual, if the context is right, but I don't really internally think of myself that way. I think entertainer, media presenter, something like that. I would say I tend to think of journalists more as news people than as other things, but I don't know, like I think of George Will as a journalist, and he's an opinion
So he's
writer.
A columnist.
He's a columnist. Right? I'd say like him, David Brooks. So I don't know. I don't know that there's a clear delineation there. I don't think
I
it's
will
just
say that
any
the best
opinionist I like as a journalist.
I would say the best columnists do reporting.
I don't know if it's original reporting though, if they're just like commenting on someone else's reporting.
No, I'm saying the best columnist will say like, all right, so everybody's talking about soybean futures or something. The best columnist will find a soybean farmer and talk to them and then frame their conversation with that around the larger narrative.
Yeah, I would call that journalism.
That is somebody who, you are writing from a perspective, you are proving your point, you're using this person as a tool to do it, but you made the call yourself.
Yeah. You're adding information to the conversation as opposed to just cycling it.
Yeah. And in that vein, I would say that Michael Tracy and Julie K. Brown are probably more journalists, although I don't know how much Julie K. Brown actually reports these days, but like I would give her the credit retroactively and say that they are reporters. They leave their house, they go to places, they talk to people. Michael Tracy certainly does that.
He'll also dig through all kinds of crazy documents. Like he does his homework.
Well, that was the thing that drove me nuts is that like, so there was this whole thing with Tara Palmieri and Jim Acosta where they were like talking about how Michael Tracy is this, gangly troll that is like menacing the Epstein survivors. But it's like there was a publicly listed memorial for Virginia Giuffre. Michael Tracy was there as a reporter. So it's like, he was not menacing anybody. I mean, I guess to people he was there, and so his presence was a menacing thing. But like, that's the kind of stuff that people who don't like reporters say about reporters. When reporters show up to cover things, they're ruining the event by their mere presence. The point of being a reporter is you have to turn that part of your brain off because you want to go and get the story that you need to. So it's like, it's just very, very funny that they are like, oh, he's not a journalist. He's an internet troll. He's just this internet troll that's just menacing women at this event, when it's like, he's a reporter. He's going to the event. That's what a reporter does. I don't know.
No, I agree with that completely. I respect the work of Michael Tracy for sure. And Justin, when I look at what you do on politics, because you take data and analyze it, like, you're not just regurgitating other stories like we do here and We're Not Wrong. Like, you are analyzing things. So I would call you a journalist on your individual podcast as well.
I mean, I would probably not consider myself one, only because I am so synonymous with the idea of journalist being a reporter. And I know that I can be a reporter if I want.
For politics, like, you go to these events. I do think,
I guess when I go, but also I just know how lazy I am compared to what I used to have to do. Like, I used to have to go talk to people. Now I just show up at the event and I'm like, job's done. I just stand in the corner and I'm like, y'all look tense. And then I'm going to joke that I'm writing it down. I don't even write it down.
So you're a lazy reporter.
I just put it in my head. I'm like, remember to say they look tense.
A lazy
Job's
reporter
done, me.
Is still a reporter, my friend.
From Austin, Texas, I'm Justin Robert Young. Also from Austin, Texas,
I'm Jennifer Briney.
And from New York City,
I'm Andrew Heaton.
And we're not wrong. On this edition of the program, we're going to talk about the closing of Spirit Airlines and the pulling out of 5,000 troops for now from Germany. The U.S. military signaling such a move. We begin with Spirit. Spirit Airlines is now officially in the dismantling phase. After shutting down before dawn on Saturday, the discount carrier was in bankruptcy court Tuesday of this week in White Plains, New York, beginning what CNBC describes as a month-long wind down for the company. Spirit filed a cumulative wind down budget of roughly $217 million, although that figure could change. The budget stretches all the way to February 2028 and includes more than $52 million in employee costs through July, plus another $52 million for aircraft-related expenses. The shutdown follows years of financial struggles, including heavy debt and rising operation costs. Spirit's lawyers told the court that a spike in jet fuel prices after the U.S.-Israeli attacks on Iran added about $100 million in costs during March and April, leaving the airline with no choice but to stop flying. Mr. Andrew Heaton, a proposed merger between Spirit and JetBlue was blocked by the Biden administration for being anti-competitive. It was a move questioned even by former Biden nominee Neera Tanden on social media. So I ask you, the war in Iran, the Biden administration, or just incompetence, who killed Spirit Airlines?
There's something here for everybody to hate. Regardless of who you are, regardless of what you hate, there's something for you to have here. So I would say that it's two things that brought down Spirit Airlines. There's a proximate cause and a broader context. The proximate cause, as you identified, was because we went to war with Iran and the cost of gas and therefore jet fuel spiked, it removed the competitive niche that Spirit Airlines had. They are a low-cost airline. That means that people that use it are going to be the most cost-sensitive and the least elastic when it comes to those prices. So that spike jump killed them. If you want to blame it on Trump, you can for that proximate cause. He pulled the trigger on that. Or I guess Israel, if you really want to get mad at them, you could do that too. I would say the broader context is also, as you point out, the Biden administration. Lena Khan was somebody that used antitrust law selectively and ideologically, often with implausibly narrow market definitions and a disregard for real world outcomes. And this happened several times. Now, this is an example where it ended up just completely bad because Spirit Airlines tried to merge with JetBlue. At the time, what Lena Khan said was, I think rightly, Spirit Airlines exerts competitive effects on the other major airlines. Because they are such a low-cost airline, it compels United and other companies to have to reduce their airfare because of them. So I think that was accurate. And if they were to merge with JetBlue, then it would potentially reduce the competitive nature of the industry. I think insofar as that goes, there's some good logic to it. But the reality is that they ended up just going bankrupt. And so rather than JetBlue being a stronger competitor for low cost airlines that are competing with United and all of those other things, it's just going to go under. And so, that's my broad take on this. I think Lena Khan specifically and the sort of new anti-monopoly people of Mark Stoller and J.D. Vance and Steve Bannon and kind of that whole wing, I think that set the context for this kind of failure to happen. But the proximate cause was Trump.
Jen, who killed Spirit Airlines?
Well, I mean, obviously the executives at Spirit Airlines with the choices that they made,
Yes.
They had no cushion whatsoever for a fuel increase like this. And so that's not good business. They're also paying out their executives like, tens of millions of dollars. These people are not that good, especially if they just went into bankruptcy, like a year
I think they'd filed for bankruptcy like 2 or 3 times too.
Yeah, I mean, it's real recent. So we're not talking about great people here and they're funneling money to them. I don't think that the executive pay is the entirety of why they went out of business, but it just shows, where their priorities lie. When it comes to the Biden administration, I do want to also place the blame on the executives at Spirit Airlines because JetBlue was not the only airline that was interested in merging with them. Frontier was also interested in merging with them. And the antitrust division at the time said that, the merger with JetBlue would have created yet another behemoth in the airline industry. Frontier was a much smaller airline that would have been a better choice, probably would have made it through, but they chose to go forward with the JetBlue thing. So, I mean, again, this is an airline that made choices that led to their own demise. I'm not going to blame antitrust enforcers for enforcing laws that have not been enforced for a very long time and has led to us having monopolies in all kinds of different industries. And so I'm not placing this on Lena Khan. I'm placing this on Spirit Airlines and the choices that they made. And unfortunately, we're all going to pay for it because without them being there to set a floor, I think the prices are going to rise across the board. I mean, they already seem to be. But again, that's also fuel prices. And by the way, even if they merged with JetBlue, there's also reporting coming straight out of JetBlue that they too are afraid of going under because of these fuel prices. So I don't even think that was a guaranteed save for either of those airlines. So, Spirit Airlines. That's where I
think the question with JetBlue would have been, could they get the pun intended lift like from a merger like that, which would have given them more gates? That's really, whenever airlines merge, it's not about planes and it's surely not about the staff. The staff is actually a net negative. Yeah. It's gates. How many more gates can they get without bidding for them? So that's what's happening right now, are that all the gates at your favorite airline that used to serve Spirit Airlines, now all those other airlines are all bidding for those gates because that's the currency that actually moves the needle in that industry. Heaton?
Why would it be bad for Spirit Airlines to merge with JetBlue as a Frontier, or as opposed to Frontier? Like, I don't see why the one would be a monopoly or how antitrust legislation would affect picking between the two.
It was because of the size of JetBlue. It was just a much, much bigger airline. So it was seen as a bigger airline eating the smaller airline as opposed to a merger of two comparatively sized airlines. From what I understand, I'm not Lena Khan, but they did say that Frontier would have moved forward where the JetBlue one didn't. And they chose to go the JetBlue route.
I think that's probably what Lena Khan would have said. Lena Khan, this is one of my problems with her. I don't think that she's actually going after monopoly. She basically uses monopoly synonymous with big, but monopoly denotes that there's coercive power in the market because there's no other options. So that makes total sense to me that she would do that and go, I'm afraid that company will be too big. But that's a different thing than having a monopoly. And that's why I kind of falter on that. I don't think that needed to have anti-legislation law affect it.
Well, I think there have been two. I think becomes a larger story in terms of the Biden administration and Lena Khan stuff, because it is now the second of a blocked merger where the smaller company that was looking to get acquired wound up going under. The first was iRobot, the Roomba makers that were going to sell to Microsoft. They wound up essentially getting liquidated for parts to a Chinese manufacturer. But the thing that was the scary, we need to merge now or else, in both of those cases wound up happening.
Yeah. Where there was also, we talked about this when it happened 2-3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago now, Kroger Albertsons. Now, neither of those have gone bankrupt, but Albertsons did close down 20 locations that were competing with Kroger after the failed merger. So it ended up having a dent in the competitive landscape anyway as a result of that. But this makes sense though, because I think that there's an anti-corporate wing that they're concerned with corporations being too big and are using anti-monopoly legislation as a means to try to stop corporations from being large. And some of the fallout from this is, as you point out, if you're effectively gerrymandering the terms in order to make the market what you want it to be, so that you can say, that person is now a monopoly within this market that I newly created, therefore we're not going to allow them to merge. You do cut the corporations down, but you run the risk of also having problems for consumers, making them non-competitive or having them fail, all those sorts of things. I think that the Khan perspective was intellectually interesting, but ultimately the protocol that we've had the last 20, 30 years of harm to consumer is just a better metric. It's easier to determine, and it's harder to gerrymander. And so it's a better standard than this sort of imaginative market concentration model that she wanted to promulgate.
Yeah, but I think the problem with market concentration is harm to the consumer, because the concern was that you would have something over 80% of the market controlled by these 4 giant airlines. Kind of have that now, but if you just create another one that is that size, you'd wipe out all of the low-cost carriers. The concern was that the prices would go up and the service would go down, as tends to happen when you have 4 or 5 companies controlling an entire industry, especially one as essential as air travel in the United States, where we really don't have an alternative if you want to go from one coast to the other. So I see the logic there from the harm to the consumer side of not allowing that industry to become more consolidated. Because you have to remember, I think it was, and I might be getting these crossed, but like U.S. Airways used to exist, and that was gobbled up by United or American. Northwest Airlines, that was a thing that was gobbled up. Like, we have fewer airlines. And so as the Biden administration saw that happening again with a larger airline buying a smaller airline, like a merger between two equals, okay. But I see the logic in it. I understand why they did it. I hate the result, but
even knowing that it ends like this.
Because Spirit had another choice that even at the time they were saying, you know, like, we're not too worried about the Frontier option. They chose to go with the JetBlue one. Like, I would
assume that they had a fiduciary duty to their shareholders to take the most lucrative deal.
I don't know which one was the most lucrative deal. All I know is that JetBlue wasn't their only option, but it is the path they went down. It didn't work. And that the regulators at the time, like right now, there's a lot of companies that want to merge because they know the administration is friendly to that idea. You knew that it wasn't going to be that friendly, the idea in the Biden administration. You can still read the tea leaves, and they didn't do that. And they've been bad management in a lot of ways. So it's like, I'm not going to blame the Biden administration for something that the executives at Spirit did.
Yeah, but they wanted to merge with a company, and they're at fault because the Biden administration just didn't like it. Like, I don't know. I think that's overstepping it. And I don't know what the exact market share here is, but with this particular merger, didn't she make a delineation between airlines and ultra low cost airlines? Like, that's the kind of artificial delineation I'm talking about. Like, it's airlines.
I just feel like you're simplifying it down to like, they didn't like it. They did it because like the company was too big.
I think Lena Khan's just very anti-corporate, and she can do anything to cut them down. She would. And yeah, I do think it was kind of simple in that regard.
That sounds like you just don't like Lena Khan, but I mean, if you look at the decision itself, I don't. But it's not about her. If you just look at like the policy decision, like, it's not big company bad. They actually had their reasons. If you take out personal animus towards the person who did it, there were reasons for not allowing the industry to consolidate even more based on what we've seen since deregulation. Like we do have far fewer choices.
I mean, even Democratic names like Neera Tanden were second guessing it.
I'm not saying that like there's no reason to second guess it. Like go ahead. But you asked me who I blame.
Yes.
I blame the company.
The company.
I blame the company.
Right.
Did you ever fly Spirit Airlines?
Fuck no. No,
Not once? You never flew Spirit?
No, not once. I like Southwest Airline. That was the other low cost carrier, but the customer service, like I knew Southwest was going to get me from point A to point B. I knew I could check my bags. Like the Southwest before Elliott Management, I was very loyal to them. I chose my destinations based on like, does Southwest go there? So
Heaton, did you fly Spirit?
I did fly Spirit. I didn't like it at all. I think I did it one time out of Austin to DC 3 years ago. I had to go to whatever the weird side airport is that you never know. Like there's Austin Bergdorf or whatever.
The South Terminal. Closed, by the way.
Is it good?
Closed. They closed the South Terminal.
the secret terminal.
I didn't like it. And then I got delayed by like 6 hours. No, I didn't like it at all. It is a low cost airline. I want to clarify something though. It's not that I personally dislike Lena Khan. I don't know her at all. I thought her paper that she wrote, which is how she got famous and became part of the Biden administration, had a lot of intellectual merit to it. She was pushing back against the Bork consensus that we've had since the 1980s of using consumer harm as the relevant metric. And what she said was that you shouldn't be looking at consumer harm because there are potential harms in the future that doesn't take care of based on market concentration. And that even if the consumer is not harmed, that the larger companies can potentially push down wages for salaried employees. I think that those are relevant things to bring up. I think that that is a rational and smart approach. My problem is that I don't think that she engaged those ideas in good faith in her job. What she did was redefine markets in order to suit her ideological agenda of trying to make companies smaller. And so would come up with new artificial terms in order to make it seem like something was 80% market concentrated, when that had not really been anything people had previously used, nor something that the average consumer would even think that way. So that's my problem with her. I think she was basically gerrymandering market terms in order to arrive at a predetermined ideological conclusion.
And I don't know what to say to you about that because I don't know what's in her heart when she made those decisions. But like, I think we need to enforce antitrust laws in this country. We haven't for a long time.
No, me too.
I liked that she was doing it, and I'm not going to look at what she did and be like good faith, bad faith. I think some mergers need to be stopped. She made a call.
Hey, for the record, I do too.
I'm
monopolies are bad. I'm very opposed to monopolies. I'm very opposed to having a coercive market share that results in lack of competition and lack of innovation. Like I'm on board for that. What I mean is like during the Kroger-Albertson thing, she decided that Walmart doesn't qualify as a grocery store, which I think is nonsensical. Like that to me, I look at that and go, okay, you're engaging in spurious ways of looking at this in order to arrive at a predetermined outcome. That's not the same thing as enforcing existent laws. That's molding them in a way that you want in order to arrive at a predetermined outcome.
Or maybe she just saw things different than you did. Like, I don't know.
I guess so.
I don't assume bad faith.
I look at Walmart and I'm pretty sure they sell groceries. Maybe she knows something I don't, but that to me was fishy.
All right. Well, I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole that like I wasn't prepared to talk about that today. All I know is that even in this discussion, I didn't fly Spirit Airlines because they had a bad reputation. They didn't guarantee that you get from point A to point B in a decent amount of time. You did fly them. You didn't like them. I think there's a difference between being low cost and a shitty experience. And no one seemed to love Spirit Airlines. It seemed to be the airline that you took when it was the only choice you had, or if you were like broke. So I still blame Spirit for their own demise. It wasn't an airline that anybody loved.
It will come as no surprise to the audience that man of the people, Justin Robert Young, flew Spirit Airlines the most on this panel. Now, granted, it was 3 times, but since Heaton only did it once, then that means that I am indeed the champion here.
Yeah, you're the proletariat of the group, Justin.
Exactly. Finally.
You're also the guy that goes to like bumfuck nowhere for some primary. Like, is that why you were on Spirit Airlines?
No. One of their hubs was out of Fort Lauderdale. And
Oh, that's right.
There were really cheap flights back when I used to live in Fort Lauderdale, or I was visiting my family who still lived in Fort Lauderdale. It was universally a terrible experience. Never was it a good experience, largely because, and this is something that I know for sure, because I then went on to travel for business. The airport is a tense environment. People are put on edge almost immediately upon getting to the airport for a variety of reasons. Number one, a lot of people are scared of flying. So if, let's say, 30% of the people are low grade, just kind of thinking I might die in the next 30 minutes, then that's going to create a little bit of a tension that would not exist if you went to a Hardee's, right? It depends on the Hardee's, I guess. But the other thing is that people don't like a loss of control. And you are immediately reminded that you are not in control. You go to TSA, they tell you to take shit out of your bag. They tell you to do, step left, step right, do the hokey pokey, turn it all about. And that just puts another group of people that are on edge. What Spirit had was they would then coerce their staff. Their staff's job was to nickel and dime you to make up for the fact that you paid about $50 less on average per fare. So when you went, and this is like the height of online booking, you would see the big grid and it'd be like American $100, Delta $100, United $120, Spirit $50 for me to get from here to there. That's amazing. What you don't realize is that there's an extra $50
luggage for anything above, like if you want a seat belt, but it's obligatory.
Yes. So that just made for a lot of people who didn't realize that was the bargain, that they were being held up for $12, $13, $20, blah, blah, blah. It made the staff miserable. It made everybody on board miserable. It was just never a good vibe whatsoever. The only true benefit of Spirit Airlines were people recording fights in airports. Because I don't know if I've ever seen people throwing hands in front of a British Airways logo, but I have seen many videos. The compilations were being viral over the last 72 hours of the fist fights that happened in front of Spirit Airlines logos. So if you like watching fights on the internet, pour one out, because rarely do you get to see people getting into fights in places with federal agencies protecting it like you did at airports with Spirit Airlines.
Yeah, not a great airline. I do find it sad now that those people still have to fly and now they're going to go on our airlines. I don't really want the Spirit crowd infecting the friendly skies, but
I mean,
is what it is. Or maybe they'll have a better experience because they're not being told that they have to cough up $25 for half a soda.
Yeah. I mean, I think Frontier is still your ultra low cost carrier.
Mm-hmm.
Southwest certainly is not anymore.
Southwest, I booked my first Southwest flight since the merger, or since the private equity
I should use an
thing.
airline that I own partial stock in. I really should fly more in them. Being a one-stock Southwest owner.
Don't start.
Yeah, I cannot handle this again.
It's
fine.
I don't know. I booked a seat. That was interesting to book a seat.
Yeah.
I guess I automatically got bumped to A-list.
They're trying to keep the A-list because it's just what's the point of A-list now? And so here's what I've learned, because I've flown them a lot in the past few months. If you're A-list 48 hours before you get on the flight, you can book for free. You can change your seat to one of the bigger legroom seats. And then the other thing you get when you're in the premium seats is you get pistachios. You get a second snack.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not premium. And then what I have found is that no one's paying for that. So the front of the plane is pretty much open. So every single time, 48 hours before, I've been able to get a premium seat. And most of the time, I've had the middle seat open as well. So it's not working the way they thought it would. People don't want to pay for that shit. And so that's what A-list is getting you. It's getting you to the front of the plane.
Good. Well, I'll do that. I'll have to remember to do that in August.
Yeah.
I only booked it. I've kind of decided I'm going back to United. I'm slinking back to my ex with my tail between my legs.
I'm doing that. It pisses me off because United screwed me out of like $1,200 last summer. It's a long, boring story, but
How?
oh, okay. When I was flying to Europe. You know, I went to Finland,
There we go.
Scandinavia, all that.
This is a segment we call Relatable Corner.
Yep. Exactly. Go ahead. Exactly. They canceled the flight 3 hours beforehand, and then went. We're going to. Instead of flying out tonight as proposed, instead you need to fly out tomorrow at 4 a.m. You're going to fly to Newark and then have a 9-hour layover, and then you're going to do it. And I went, that is literally the worst possible thing you could do. Why don't I just, instead of flying via London, why don't I just fly via Edinburgh, and I'll get there with like a 3-hour difference. And then when I did that, and then they charged me a whole new flight for it. And I was like, hold on, but this is because you screwed it up. And they went, right, but you booked a different airport that was 500 miles away from the original airport. So you can't be, that's a completely different flight path then that you did. And I was like, but the end point was the same. And they went, nope, sorry, you're just out. You're out that money, and we're canceling the flight. So they just took, $1,300 from me. So every time I get on United, I think about how I could make $1,300 worth of damage without imperiling anybody's life. And the moment I have that opportunity, I absolutely will.
Legit, you should report that to the Department of Transportation, because Biden administration under Mayor Pete, they have rules about this, especially when it comes to the airlines canceling you and you having recourse. Also the EU, and I understand that the UK is not a part of the EU, but they have even stricter laws. And because your flight has to deal with both countries, I would absolutely talk to the feds about it, because the airlines are not just automatically doing what the law says. You kind of have to show them that you know.
I would also just stop payment on the card. I would also challenge I would dispute that charge, because you just need to be elevated to a thing, especially if you were guided through that path and then you were hit with it. Like if right before they booked you, they were like, oh, by the way, this is a totally separate charge. Just so you know, you're booking an entirely new ticket. And then you said, okay, well, my time is worth more than my money. I'm going to do this. It's a different story than if they're like Primrose Path, you land, and they're like, by the way, $1,300, please.
The thing I learned from that, both of those are very good suggestions of cancel the charge immediately upon landing. And also go through the Transportation Administration, both good calls. What I learned from that is if you're doing an international flight, I now book them separately, because the problem was that me modifying the flight on a round trip, they wouldn't allow me. I couldn't even petition them for the refund and the fare difference until I got back, because of the round trip thing. By which time they were like, nope, completely separate, right? So now what I do is separate thing. If I need to change one, it's modular. So I try not to do round trip tickets on anything big anymore, just so if something weird happens.
Yeah, we do the same thing.
Take that with you, average Joe. When you're booking your trip to Europe, make sure you book separate.
Although I was about to say, in domestic flights, anytime they cancel you, they lose a lot of their rights to your money. And I think we need to know our rights. So. Oh, yeah. I mean, part of this is like, I navigated a lot of it because I was a business traveler with United. I usually wound up getting elevated to people that were actually helpful. Mm-hmm. That is an element of this that like I have not had as much of a problem with, because once you get to the people that are actually helpful, or if you work entirely within their app, they'll just show you all the options. You're booking it without talking to anybody. And so you avoid a lot of these things. So it's like, I've been in situations that you've been in, Heaton, not to Europe, but where all of a sudden, because of plane stuff or weather stuff, they'll just be like, you're not flying tonight. You're flying tomorrow, or you're flying in 3 days. We had that happen with with holiday travel. We were trying to get to Ohio for Christmas. And it was like, you are going to Ohio 3 days after Christmas. And it's like, no, we're not. We're going to try to get to Ohio tonight. And so, it's, if you were talking to the right people, it's easier to do it, but it is in general a pain in the ass when you are, just, and 99% of plane travelers, and you are just booking a ticket because you fly, once every 3 years. United does have a good app, though. You can do
United's app is
everything in
really
it.
good.
It's really good.
And also what I found out, when you're with the 1K desk or whatever, they're literally just looking at the app. It's like the only time that it really matters to call them is when you are like running in an airport and don't have time to sit on the app and fuck around with something.
Be careful, by the way. So when I lived here in New York back in the day, when I was working in TV, I would, for Christmas or Thanksgiving, I would catch the only direct flight from New York City to Oklahoma, which would be at like 8 p.m. at night. So I'd go directly from work there. And every single year, if anything happened anywhere in the country, they'd go, better cut that flight to Oklahoma. So it was the very first thing to always be cut every single time. And I think particularly around the holidays, they hire a lot of temp people to handle the overflow that don't know what they're talking about. Because I would go, hey, my flight just got canceled. I'm trying to get back. And then I could hear this lady go, well, it says that there's a direct flight to Oklahoma right here. And then she'd book me for it. And then like an hour later, I'd be like, you just booked me for the one that got canceled, ma'am. And so like, I'm like, whenever I hear the person on the other line, if I think they're an idiot, I'll be like, hey, thanks so much. I'm going to try something else here and let them go. Because I don't want them to screw anything up on my end. Sometimes they're great, but sometimes they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. Here's somebody who knows what they're doing. A subscriber to patreon.com/we're not wrong. Why, you ask, inquisitively, if not suspiciously? Well, because if you're a patron, you get a bonus episode. So if you like this, and if you're listening to this, then Jesus, I hope you like it. You'd want more of it. Like anything else, you'd want a little extra serving. And we're going to give you a good one here this week because you know that big Virginia redistricting vote that won, that was going to put together a 10-1 map in favor of the Democrats? We had a whole big thing about gerrymandering. It might be illegal, and Virginia Democrats are sniping at each other because of decisions that were made months and months ago about how they did it. They legitimately won the vote. Unfortunately, the wording and how it got on the ballot now in question. We will go through the evidence and see whether or not we agree with what Virginia Democrats are now terrified will be a ruling against them, meaning they did all of that for naught. But that's in our Patreon. You don't get that if you're just a barnacle on this ship freeloading. No, you gotta come on up to first class, the Patreon class. Patreon.com/we're not wrong. Now with a metaphorical pistachio bag. Yeah. Get our nut bag right in your hand. Delivered hot and fresh. President Trump is escalating his push to shrink America's military footprint in Europe. The Pentagon announced it would remove 5,000 U.S. troops from Germany. Trump said the drawdown would go a lot further after the initial announcement. This matters because Germany is not just another posting. It hosts more than 36,000 American troops, along with major U.S. command infrastructure, the Ramstein Air Base and Landstuhl Medical Center. For NATO, it's a direct test of the alliance's future. Trump's argument is that Europe has the wealth and capacity to defend itself and should shoulder more of its burden. Jen, should America draw down in Europe?
No, this doesn't hurt Germany. It hurts us. Germany is hosting our bases, as in we get the privilege of putting our bases in Europe. It makes it easier when we pull our shit in the Middle East to get our soldiers to a hospital on so-called American soil. It makes it easier for us to preposition our warplanes and our refueling planes and all of these different things. But Donald Trump is Donald Trump. And so he's doing this ostensibly to hurt Germany. I think it only hurts us. We do have more than one base there. So taking 5,000 troops out doesn't mean that we're actually leaving Germany. So it's also another thing where Trump says he's doing a thing, but he's not really doing the thing. It's just, it appears to me that it's a fuck you to Germany that he doesn't completely understand. So no, I don't think it's a good idea, but I'm also not that upset about it because I think as long as we still have, Ramstein Air Force Base, like that's where we have, like that's the big one. As long as we still have that, then and my biggest concern is that the men that we are now going to send to Iran, possibly to die, I want them to be able to get medical care as fast as they can, which means having bases as close as we can possibly have in safe locations to the places where we're waging these wars. That's my biggest concern. So where we're not pulling out entirely from Germany, it's best for our guys who are our sons, our daughters, our friends, our family. They're my biggest concern. And so bad idea, but.
Even the 5,000 is a bad idea because that would basically put our levels at pre-Ukraine. Like we wound up putting 5,000 more during the Ukraine excursion. So this would just kind of reset it back to where it was.
Like I said, it's not super, like he's not pulling us out of Germany.
No.
There's rhetoric that we're pulling out of Germany. We're not. So it's like, am I super upset about this? No. But there is a reason why we put more troops there because we do have a hot war happening between Ukraine, which before Trump was pretty obviously an ally. We don't know anymore. But there was a hot war right there. And then we're starting all this shit in the Middle East. Like there's a reason why they wanted more troops.
He had nice things to say about Zelensky yesterday on Newsmax. Trump
yeah,
did.
he'll have an uncomfortable dump in Truth Social on him, say terrible things tomorrow. Like I just.
Also, there's weird shit happening in Russia. I kind of wonder whether or not we're going to have a Russia topic coming up soon.
Yeah, they canceled a parade. A military
Some
parade.
odd things happening in a country that's very, very quiet.
Yes. And so us having fewer people on that doorstep, I don't think it's the wisest, but these are the times we're in.
Heaton.
I think it's fine. And I think you hit the nail on the head, Justin, when you pointed out that we're just going back to the levels that we had pre-Ukraine. So Biden sent in 2,000 troops prior to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and then he added an additional 7,000 troops, I believe, following the invasion, bringing us to 9,000 plus whatever the base level was of 30,000, 35,000. Trump is now bringing 5,000 of them back. So we still have more people over there than we did at the beginning of Ukraine. Now, this would all be determined on who's doing what. My guess is that, A, he wants to snub Germany, as Jen points out. And B, they're probably going to take some of those guys that were there for Eastern Front purposes and bring them back as they would have done at some point in the future. So I don't think that this is nearly as big of a drawdown as it's being made out to look, because all it's doing is bringing us to almost as low as we were in like 2020. But to other points, like Jen's right, the purpose of Germany for the most part is that it's an international hub for that entire area. It's not just Europe and bulwark against Russia. It's also used as a strategic hub for anything that we're doing in the Middle East. In general, I would prefer we not be very active in the Middle East, and I don't think we need to be super active in Europe either. So broadly speaking, were we to pull back, that would be good, in my opinion. The hot war in Iran changes the dynamics on all of that, and it probably isn't a good idea while we're in the Middle East to be taking out some of our strategic resources that are at that hub location. But my cursory read of this situation is not that we're just taking people out of Germany. Rather, we're taking basically the Ukraine incursion supplements that were put over there, and we're bringing them back, which I don't think will affect very much. The other thing I'll say is, noting that Trump is an asshole and I don't like his strategic viewpoints and all that kind of thing, like I do think that broadly speaking, there is a good position in that we have done a lot of the heavy lifting on NATO for a very long time, and we have an unnecessarily large military and an unnecessarily large military across the globe. And I would like to get to the point where we lessen our footprint in Europe and we do pull troops back home.
Yeah. So general thoughts. I think you guys have kind of covered the reality of why we have bases around the world, what they're functionally used for, what, you are happy they are used for. If somebody that you know or love is in the Middle East, they're probably going to Germany to that medical facility. If things are, really bad, it's better that they go there than go to somewhere further away, especially if their life is on the line. The reason why this is happening is because Europe, in lieu of having military or naval might that could aid what America and Israel and the Gulf countries want to do in Iran, they have also been rhetorically opposed to what is happening. Donald Trump is mad at that because he's an optics guy. So he's doing something that is largely optics. You know, like there's the larger existential question about where we are with NATO and all that. And I do think that that's more serious. But this is repayment for Germany saying that they are opposed to what's happening in Iran. This is a tit for tat on that. I don't know, Jen, to your point that, you know, it is our privilege to be in Germany. What I don't know is what financial arrangement we have with Germany for that privilege, and if whether or not that is by headcount, and if reducing the headcount that is in Germany means that there is some financial downside to it. I wouldn't be shocked if that's the case. People write in. I'm sure there's very smart military people that listen to this that might know the answer to that. But when you have like Giorgia Meloni, the prime minister of Italy, very much against the idea of any American troop pullout, my guess is that that's the case. Also, whatever it was, it does seem like it worked with Germany, because Germany then came out 2 days later and said Iran must never have a nuclear weapon, which was pretty much the talking point that we wanted as well them to say.
I think Europe is very happy for us to have a massive military presence over there, because Europe would rather spend money on social safety nets than the military. And so they would like us to be a gigantic dog in the room that allows them to not have to have a big military as well. It makes total sense. If I were Europe, I would want to do that. And by the way, I think this could be a really smart thing. What I want to do is go, Europe, you're really good at social safety nets. America's really good at military. We will guarantee your security in perpetuity, and you'll take care of our health care. Great deal. I'm happy to do that. But I think that is part of what they want is they would like us to have a robust presence over there so that they don't need to build up a military. And like you are seeing that change, right? Because it's no longer clear that we are not just an active partner, but a reliable partner in NATO, which I do think is disconcerting. And you're seeing Germany rearming at a really high rate, which I think is good, but should make everybody everybody should go, well, it's been a timeout. They're probably fine now, but all the same, you know, but you know, I think probably a good thing. I think they should probably shoulder more of their defense burden, and we should shoulder less of it.
They're due to fight each other. They ain't fought each other in a while.
That's true.
Probably due for a good France versus UK fight. They used to do that shit all the time. It was hilarious.
All the time.
Jen?
I guess I'm just flashing back to 2003 when I was living in Germany and we started the Iraq War. I think we're discounting the fear that people felt in Germany because we had our bases there. Because Germany did not want to be a part of that. France didn't want to be a part of that. But our bases there, I mean, I remember having conversations. Our teachers brought us all into the basement of the school and said, right now you're staying. We're not sending you back to America. But if there is an attack on any American bases, like you just need to, you know, we have your cell phone numbers. You have to be prepared to get back here so that we can send you home. Like those were real conversations that were had. And the Germans, I wasn't right next to a base, but there was definitely conversations about like, you know, this country that we have given some of our land to for their militarism, like it could make us a target. And then you look at the UAE and Kuwait and, you know, our allies in the Middle East that are getting attacked because they're hosting our bases. There are real risks to these countries because of our war making. And so it's not just, you know, we're doing them a favor. They are also doing us a favor by allowing us to launch our wars from their territory. And so, I mean, I don't know. I guess just like now that we're in the midst of yet another Middle East war launched for reasons that are very cloudy to the American people, I just wish that the commander in chief were making these decisions based on strategic reasons as opposed to like, fuck you for not saying nice things about me. That's my biggest concern. I just don't trust his decision making.
Well, this one was not saying nice things about the thing I'm doing.
But still, who cares about saying nice things? Like, that's not why you should be moving troops around. You move troops around based on the needs in the two war zones that we are active in. Cause like, let's not pretend we're not involved in Ukraine and Russia. We've been training them since 2014 in Ukraine. So it's like, I would rather the troops be moved based on operational need and their safety and security reasons for like that instead of optics, as I think you correctly said. So it's the decision making that has me concerned. It's not necessarily the 5,000 troops, but it's like why they're moving. It's just another Trumpy.
I do kind of feel like this is Trump does nothing quietly. You know, Trump doesn't move a pen from one side of his desk without it being something that he is publicizing. And so I don't blame people for reacting to it. But I also think that this would be like on page 4 of the Military Times in another world and nobody would give a shit. It would be a thing that like, you know, and another news, the boys are coming home. Like 5,000 troops from Germany are they're bringing schnitzel to the special ladies.
Yeah,
I don't know why. It's a newsreel, but
Justin, I want
like
this
that's
character to come back. Keep this character coming back.
Yeah, it's the war aspect of this where I think it is a bigger deal because we're at war. And they're even denying we're at war because they don't want to have to get the authorization from Congress, which is now overdue. So they're calling it all kinds of things. Trump straight up said on the tarmac the other day that we're not calling it a war because we don't want to deal with, like, he fucking said it. So it's like, it's all of it, man. I'm uncomfortable with all of the decisions being made. So it's like, yes, is this kind of probably being overblown? Sure. But when you just look at the whole package.
I mean, look, I would say this is the intersection. This is like the Venn diagram area between a larger thing about what is America's role in NATO. And I would say even more so, it's going to come to a head if, for those of you who are not following deep lore with Russia right now, what we're referring to is like, there's fucking weird shit. Like people haven't seen Putin in a while. People haven't seen some of his top aides. There's rumors that there was already an attempted coup and he's kind of gone underground because of it. We know that there's significant problems with the front lines of Russia. They've actually been pushed back. It looks like that military might be collapsing on its own graft. The Ukrainians have pretty much entrenched themselves into positions. They're just getting more JDAMs that could actually fire into Russia and like take out missile launchers. So it is looking bad right now for Russia. If, let's say, Putin is, couped tomorrow, there will be a larger conversation about like, what is the worth of NATO? Is this a celebration that this was NATO's greatest moment, that we took out Russia again? It's the sequel series to the reason why we created NATO to begin with. Or is it like, great job, everybody. Nobody gets along anymore and Russia's rebuilding. So let's all figure out our own plans and head out. That's going to be a larger thing. So that's one story. The other story is what's happening in Iran, which is, depending.
A ceasefire where you get to bomb each other during it. Like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, you have, militarily, a fairly successful decapitation of leadership in Iran, to the point where now it seems very, very clear that there are multiple different power sources that don't agree with what should go on going forward. You have one capitulatory power source that may well, reading the tea leaves, are saying the things that we want them to say, like you fly the enrichment, the enriched uranium out. We'll do a 15-year moratorium. We'll promise to be good boys and we won't fund our terror proxies as long as you lift the sanctions. And Trump is a transactional enough president that he's probably the only person that would do things like lift sanctions. I think the entrenched State Department rhetoric on that is so like, there's no world in which the Islamic Republic would have sanctions lifted. Trump is the kind of guy who's like, whatever. If you do X, Y, and Z, I'll do it. And then
there's the Revolutionary Guard.
Then you have elements that are like, no, we're going to keep shooting missiles until we're out of missiles. Yep. Now, at some point, is there a coup? I would say with all those guys, they should really have a leader, but a leader that's more than a leader, like a supreme leader.
Yeah.
Like a leader with sour cream and rice, like a supreme leader. They apparently don't have one.
Yeah.
Because they usually that's the whole point of the supreme leader is that he can just say, no, we're going in this direction or that direction.
Well, they have one, but no one has seen him since he became supreme leader.
Yeah, apparently he's got a face like Harvey Dent and no legs and maybe
We're not sure
gay.
his heart is beating.
Yeah.
There are problems with the supreme
And if it
leader.
is, it's for hunks.
Oh boy, we're going there, huh? We should send Lindsey Graham to negotiate this.
Yeah.
That's how we
That was
make
a
world
great tweet.
peace.
It was just like, look, I'm just going to tell you that Lindsey Graham can be a heroic patriot and reset the Middle East for a generation if he takes one for the team.
That's real.
But yeah, and that is a huge part of this is that like Europe is caught between these crosshairs of like, they're theoretically more in like Iran has launched a missile that was aimed at a place for which could take out Berlin per se. They're more in the crosshairs than we are, but we're, especially under Trump, not, the cuddliest teddy bear these days. And so on the world stage, they're like, no, this is bad. This is bad. And so I don't know. It's a real kooky situation. We're not wrong pod at gmail.com. That's where you need to go if you want to write into this program. Justin is also great, writes, I want to congratulate the WNR team for being consistently resistant to tribalistic bullshit. Like Heaton, I confess my initial thoughts with the SPLC was about time.
Southern Poverty Law Center, for those that don't know that.
Those grifters have been profiting from divisive media hellscapes for years that they help create. They have very little intellectual honesty, but Heaton reminded me that just because people are jerks does not mean that they deserve partisan indictments. He stood by his principles. Likewise, Jen would be welcomed by many of these champagne socialists at the Times, but she chose to stand on her principles and talk about things that she believes would actually help people. This episode reminded me why I love this podcast.
Very kind of you. Thank you. I'm warmed by that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I really like that too. Thank you.
And then he said, I'm great too.
Yeah.
I just didn't read it, He said, I'm also
Justin
awesome.
titled this, Justin is also great.
Yeah. Who knows where these titles come from? I don't know who writes these titles.
Oh, that's right.
Nobody.
It's definitely not you.
No. On micro looting. Head on a Piker writes, y'all should probably spend a little bit more time understanding Hassan Piker because your analysis of the micro looting segment tells me you don't. And you sound fucking old as fuck doing it. He's the epicenter of the coming Democratic Tea Party that's happening.
No, thank you.
How familiar with Hassan Piker are you?
I'm not, and I don't care. I don't spend a lot of time analyzing other pundits. And I think it's a disease in our industry that we spend so much time talking about each other. So no, I don't care what Hassan Piker does.
I'm going to say I probably should know more about Hassan Piker if he is indeed the vanguard of something I'm going to be fighting for the next 40 years of my fucking life. But to the main part that struck me of this, of course I sound old talking about Hassan Piker. Of course I do. Young people have just discovered the amazing elixir of self-righteous indignation, and they want to go on sexy, passionate moral crusades. I'm talking about trade-offs and systems. I'm not going to sound young when I do that, but you know what? My goal is not to sound hip. My goal is to make the world better.
That's right, Grandpa.
Where do we want to start talking about Hassan Piker, listener? Do we want to start it when he was a himbo YouTube personality talking about banging college sluts? Or do we want to start it at when he was making videos for the Young Turks about Tommy Lauren, breaking down her videos and essentially being a reply guy there? Do we want to talk about his time on the Young Turks? Do we want to talk about his time on Twitch? Do we want to talk about the H3 Truth Nuke video that came out? Do we want to talk about him interviewing a Houthi? Do we want to talk about him as a major player in the world of Democratic politics? Do we want to talk about him campaigning with Abdul El-Sayed in the Michigan Democratic primary? The point, my friend, is I indeed might be old as fuck, but I am well aware of who Hassan Piker is. I'm well aware of his influence. I'm well aware of his friendship with Dan Clancy, the head of Twitch. I do think that he gets away with a lot on that platform that other people have been banned for. And that's not even getting into the fact that he electrifies his dog so she can stay on screen in a frame. Google that if you want.
Wait, what?
This
got
is
a dog.
Whole thing that when I go on Robbie Suave's show, I bring my dog and he's got a little GPS thing on his collar. I think it fell off, but he had a GPS thing on his collar for a while. And people in the comments were like, is Heaton shocking his dog too? And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? But apparently it was in reference to this Hassan Piker thing that he has his dog on a shock collar. There are allegations that he has his dog on a shock collar.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing.
Why would you do that?
Because when you are doing Twitch, right, and you were streaming for hours, this is like a 9-to-5 job, if not longer, where you were just sitting on camera and you are talking into it back and forth with a chat. We don't record live, but if we did, we would have a chat that would be going. And when you're solo, like Hassan Piker is, you have a pretty static background. A thing that made his static background more exciting, therefore leading to viewer retention, was his dog sleeping on a little dog bed. And it had long been a point of fascination of why his dog just kind of sits in that dog bed for hours and hours and hours while he's streaming. So it became a point of fascination, so much so that people realized that there were times that she walked off and then immediately ran by, and then people matched the collar that she was wearing to a shock collar. So there's a thing. And look, I'm not here to say that Hassan Piker is a bad person. I think he is a dumb person. I don't think he's particularly intellectually curious. And I will say politically, he is probably a liability in the way that I would say Nick Fuentes would be on the right. Like, there's a lot of fucking wild shit that he has said online. And part of that is just because when you talk extemporaneously for a long enough period of time, you're going to say wild stuff. But he has said really wild stuff.
What kind of self-obsessed windbag do you have to be to talk from 9 to 5 and think people want to hear that?
They do. He's huge.
wild.
Yeah, he's massive.
He's very wealthy. He's a very wealthy proletariat. He's a very rich Marxist.
Jesus.
Yeah. He's a true believer too. I mean, like he very
awful.
much. Yeah.
Yeah. No, he like in the New York Times piece. I mean, he was like, he's done his reading. I'll give him that. Like a lot of the time when people invoke Marxism, they don't know whether you're castigating somebody or championing it. A lot of people have no fucking idea what Marxism actually is. I think he's actually read the shit.
How many days a week does he do this? It's the
Most.
workflow that like kills me.
Most
I
days.
would hate my life.
I mean, that's in the Twitch world. Top streamers would refer to getting suspended from the platform as vacation, because you are kind of expected and it incentivizes you to stream every day for hours and hours and hours every day. And so it's only when you're suspended and not allowed on the platform that you would be given the grace by your audience to not be with them every single day.
Oh my God, it's psychotic.
But yeah, no, I mean, he said the fall of the Soviet Union was the greatest geopolitical tragedy of our time.
Yeah.
He's not my cup of tea.
He's also one of those dudes that just reflexively likes anybody that America doesn't like and vice versa. Like there's a difference between I am angry at what my country is doing versus I think my country's bad. And so just anybody that doesn't like it must be good. And he strikes me as in that camp more than
now
critiques.
To be fair, I think I saw a poll yesterday. The question was, is America a force for good or a force for evil in the world? And the Republican Democratic split on that was like Republican plus 40 something for good. And the Democratic split was +2 for evil. And so in that world where I would imagine that the strata of that is like, there's a portion of Democrats who are like, well, we probably mean well, but we wind up doing evil. Hassan is more on the like, we are evil and
we're fundamentally racist, colonial powers, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
And it's a large portion of that electorate. There is, I mean, the emailer is not wrong to say that he is at the vanguard of an electorate. He is at the vanguard of an electorate, and politicians would not have them campaign with him if they did not believe so. So this emailer is right to say that is the case. There we go. Hopefully we have brushed up our Hassan
we just analyzed
Piker's
another pundit.
Bona fides.
You're welcome. I hate doing that shit.
It's fucking lucrative though. God, drama.
I know, the This is why I'm going to be a small podcaster for the rest.
Drama. People eat up drama. Am I the only one who watched the panel, writes? I thought the ultimate point was not advocating for microlooting, but pointing out that it's just further unraveling of the social contract. It's arguably, quote unquote, justified on a cosmic moral scale, but it is an ineffective protest at best. The better option comes to things like labor organization and such, not individual acts of theft.
I just want to point out that I think our analysis was not of the panel discussion, or at least mine wasn't. I was talking about actual microlooting. So it's like, yes, I didn't watch it. I read what they said, but I wasn't really commenting on the other people's comments. I was commenting on microlooting itself. Again, I don't enjoy commentary on other people's commentary. It feels like a waste of time and energy. So
I was doing both. Like listener, I think you're correct. Like the overall point of their piece was not microlooting, even though they did kick it off. Like that was their own framework for what they wanted to tease it. That wasn't, I would say, the overall main thesis of the whole thing if you listen to all of it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't change the fact that they did talk about like the stuff I was pissed off about, they did talk about. Now, if you want to say that it wasn't the most important thing to them, that's fine, because there were moments where they had coherent, calm things that I didn't disagree with. The things that I was reacting to was the stupid, frivolous bullshit that they were talking about. Now, if you think it's a secondary concern to them, that's fine. But yeah, like I don't take back anything I said about that panel.
Real problems of real people, writes Luigi Mangione, and the looters were lumped together as having similarities, and either Andrew or Justin said that they were privileged people who were not suffering from the issues they were acting out against, and also had nothing on the line. Luigi had major medical issues and related issues with insurers, and I think be arrested and charged is hardly not having anything on the line. Then Andrew said he thought Starbucks is a good company to treat employees well, citing that there aren't many issues of note. Just look at Status Quo's coverage of Starbucks. The first to form a union went on strike and went through hell as Starbucks tried to illegally break the union. And since they settled several years ago, Starbucks has managed to delay ratifying a collective bargaining agreement. Meanwhile, around the country, if there are any noises about unionizing, they find a reason to close that store, which puts a chill on other stores whose workers are desperate to keep their jobs. Keaton, do you want to start or you want to defer to Mame?
I've got a litany, so why don't you go first?
I might be incorrect in my Luigi Mangione lore, but while he did have a major medical issue surfing, that common proletariat activity for people born in Maryland, he did not have a problem with insurers. His issues with United Healthcare came from a conceptual point of view, specifically through the rationalist community. So his issues were conceptualization. And while we can have a larger question about exactly where the moral compunction is to take violent, if not deadly action based on things that have happened to you, there's plenty of conversation that we can have about that philosophically and religiously. I don't believe that Luigi, at least from what I understand of this story, that while he was infirm because of the surfing accident, he did not have a problem. He came from one of the richest families in Baltimore. Heaton, you go.
Okay. I do think Starbucks is a good company. I don't use it because I just don't like the taste of their stuff, and I find the aesthetic to be kind of bland. So I don't personally like it subjectively, but yeah, I think that they do amazing stuff by their employees. If you're a Starbucks employee, you get health insurance, life insurance, dental and vision. You're entitled to emotional and mental health short-term counseling. There's a CUP fund that provides financial relief to employees after natural disasters or a family death or another extreme problem. They give you $10,000 towards adoption fees plus 6 weeks of paid leave to bond with the adopted child. They've partnered with Arizona State University, so if you want to get a degree with them, they pay for your tuition. They do 401k matching. They give stock in the company to employees. It vests half in 1 year and then the remaining in 2 years. And then they have $25,000 towards IVF and egg freezing, $10,000 towards fertility medications, and $40,000 in reimbursement for surrogacy and other IUI expenses. And this isn't just people that are working 40 hours per week. This is people that work 20 hours or more. This is part-time employees that they're giving all of this stuff to. So I look at that and go, this is so much more in terms of benefits than most unions in the 50s, 60s, and 70s could even conceive of. This amazes me. And what I find so odd about the reflexive desire to get mad at Starbucks is it seems to me that if you're one of these folks that thinks that corporations are just stingy and mean and they should just be better to their employees, why can't they be? But this is it. This is a great example of a company that has taken its employees very seriously, and you should hold up and say other companies should do this kind of thing. But nobody's doing that. Instead, you're finding examples of, they're mean to unions. They're also an evil corporation. I think if you want corporations to be better, you need to have an idea in your mind of what that actually looks like. And I think this is it.
I mean, you were not addressed directly, but you can comment. No, but I'm just
curious. I mean, the guy did give you some concrete examples, which I have heard of, about these people not being able to unionize and getting retaliated against when they try. Like, do you have any comment on what he brought up?
Good.
Sure. Yeah. I think of things in terms of net. They seem to me to be a major, big net positive for employees. I don't think that means they're perfect. But if you want to use the standard of if a company does anything wrong, they're a bad company, then they're a bad company. But I would take into account all of the benefits that they're currently providing and look at that as the main starting position rather than going, there's all this stuff and they've been mean to unions. And I don't know the full backstory on that, but they've been mean to unions at these 3 locations. Therefore, they're bad. Like I would look at it in their totality. They seem to be well ahead based on that.
Insult to the working man writes, these fools are hurting employees more than anyone else. And believe it or not, most of them do care. People who work at grocery stores pride themselves in their work. The idea that they won't mind if you shoplift because it's a garbage job at a terrible company is insulting, especially coming from the child who's bragging to his friends about swiping a Kit Kat like that makes him the biggest brain on Edgelord Mountain.
Who said that? The employees
I think that might have been
in reference to the panel. Not us.
The panel. Yeah,
not
that
us,
was not
but
us.
the New York Times people.
You guys criticize us. Like we are not the New York Times panel.
We want, yell at us. Degrading the biome, Rex. If all members of the economy had the same obligation to act as they would like to be treated, then the corporations need to reform their behavior, but they won't. So the employers will continue to displace costs, risks, and harms anywhere but their owners, shielding themselves from the same standard being applied to the shoplifter. The corporate executive excusing the enterprise of stealing wages, degrading of the biome, and swindling customers and so on is the moral equivalent of justification for shoplifting, but our Overton window is set to cast disgust at the individual while largely ignoring the market giant's immorality with the excuse of naturalizing the corporation's reprehensible actions, because that's just how market works, they say. Markets are not immutable forces of nature, and even the past century of examining different economies today, we can see how different policy decisions by individuals in civic and business positions are determining the nature of said market.
I think
very
the overall
wordy.
point is...
Yeah. Can you summarize that? Because it was very wordy. I didn't quite follow. Can you get a thesis for me?
You're asking me to...
Just
either
one
of you.
He wants to uncork, so go ahead.
Okay. The overall point that I think you're making, that these corporations, they get away with stuff on big scales that you wouldn't get away with on smaller scales. Like, I think you're right that, corporations are able to steal from workers' wages by not paying them for, lunch breaks. I remember Disney, they would make you park like 1,000,000 miles away, but they wouldn't pay you for the time that it took to actually get to your job. So you were working an extra hour every day and not getting paid for it. I know that stuff is real. It happens. You still don't get free Kit Kats because this happens. 2 wrongs don't make a right. So it's yeah, we do punish individuals. You're pointing something out that's true, but I don't want to live in a society where both individuals and corporations don't have to follow any laws. That's just chaos. We can't go down that road.
Well met.
Heaton.
Well met. I agree with that. In regards to the paragraph that the listener wrote in, you had several things there. If we're having a conversation about regulating or taxing negative externalities, I am here for that. If we're talking about enforcing fraud, I'm here for that. I'm skeptical when we start using the phrase wage theft, because I think that can very rapidly devolve into a a terminology disagreement of whether if someone doesn't pay someone a salary high enough, it constitutes theft. The stuff that Jen brought up is, I think, actually much more compelling, that you just mentioned of like, you have to park an hour away and you're not getting compensated for that. That actually, I think, has some traction to it. A lot of the time, I feel that that's just used as you could pay people more and you don't, therefore you're stealing from them, which I think is a fairly vacuous position. There are things that they should be regulated on. There are things that they should be prohibited from doing. I don't disagree on any of that. As far as the immutable nature of the markets, that comment there, the immutable nature of the markets that you're not going to get past. And I think that this is where a lot of the problems come from when we discuss things to do with big corporations is you're not going to get a large group of people to cease being self-interested. You can't mandate that away, and you can't mandate intentions. You can put in incentives. You can have a carrot and a stick. But a lot of the time when we have these, like the last one about Starbucks, we have conversations about corporations, this sort of idea that they should just be nicer. And they're like, yeah, sure, okay, they should be nicer, but you can't mandate that. All you can do is say, we're going to punish you if you do this, or we're going to reward you if you do this. So the immutable nature is that self-interested aggregation element. And no, you're not going to get away from that.
And finally, the Hamburglar Jester Goons writes, microlooting is the looks maxing of stealing. Looks maxing is just a beauty routine for men, possibly a stupid one. And microlooting is just theft from people that you think is justified. If either of these groups really believed in their positions, they would just call it beauty or theft. If you got to cover up stealing with microlooting, then maybe you aren't really confident that folks should be stealing in the first place.
It's a fun position. I like that.
Do you guys have a beauty routine?
I use a lot of skin lotion because I think I look 15 years older than all of you, and so I don't want to wrinkle any faster until you've caught up with me. So I use sunblock and skin lotion every day.
Are you going to be a male Botoxer?
Me? Maybe. I don't know. I think I look and feel fucking old right now, and it bothers me. But on the other hand, as a presenter, I think that it probably would not be advantageous to me to Botox because I'd be less expressive. Presently, I think I would rather keep my weird wrinkly face and have it be expressive and be kind of a John Lithgow character actor type person in life than have it Botoxed and not be able to show stuff.
Be nicer to yourself.
Oh, thank you.
Old or weird looking.
Thank you. And John
Some
Lithgow's
days
a great
you know
guy.
it.
He is a great guy.
I know he is. One of his kids was on a rival volleyball team. So
Really?
I used to see him all the time.
Wow.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my
very
God.
tall.
Did you get to talk to him?
I think my
That's a
dad
great shot.
may have.
John Lithgow.
I should
Yeah,
say
my
I
dad
actually
was a
have-
big fan of Third Rock from the Sun.
Yeah.
So it was like a big deal
Love
at the
that
time to
show.
like
Yeah.
spot him.
I should say, I don't actually know if he's a good person or not. I know nothing about John Lithgow, the person. I do think he's an incredible actor, and I love.
I will tell you he's a good dad because we saw him all over the place. He was constantly supporting his kid.
Aw,
so.
Nice, good
That's
for
good.
him. Also, I would bet a lot of money he knows how to play piano. He just strikes me as the kind of guy who probably knows how to
Incredibly
play piano. I'd be very surprised if he couldn't play it.
He's Dumbledore in the new HBO Harry Potter.
Cool.
He's
That's
great.
another thing I won't
When he
watch.
played Churchill,
Yeah.
I was like,
American Dumbledore. Everybody's talking about Black Snape. No one's talking about American Dumbledore.
Yeah. No, when he did Churchill, like at first I read that, I was like, John Lithgow's going to do Churchill? Holy fuck.
Crushed
he did
it.
a great job.
Yeah.
He nailed it.
Yeah. No, he rules. He's awesome.
What's your beauty routine?
I'm an oily man. I'm a very oily, who knows where I'm actually from, but it's certainly near the equator because I am an oily, sweaty, well, not really sweaty, more oily. So I don't
sweaty.
really have any problem with lotion.
So you just bathe in your own gunk?
Basically.
Okay.
I was told by my family, by the men in my family, when I was going through horrendous acne, that my uncle was like, look, this sucks. It sucked when I went through it. You're going to have like horrifying acne. It's going to be terrible for anywhere between 2 and 4 years. But trust me, when it really counts, you're going to look 30 until you're 70.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Like, because the
conversely,
oil
in my sweaty but not oily family, we all look like we climb Mount Everest for a living after age 50. So I'm very jealous of that Italian miscellaneous skin you've got. If I
Sure,
ever skin
yeah.
anybody and wear it, you're the first one.
Thank you. You want to know what? Thank you. Thank you so much.
And my skin's still trying to kill me.
Yeah, yours is hostile.
Yeah, I have angry skin.
You're the only one with a skincare routine that involves a scalpel.
Yep. That's real. That's real.
Your skincare routine involves rubbing two sticks together.
Yeah, and praying a lot.
On the Southern Poverty Law Center, but they also suck, writes, the news about the SPLC indictment reminded me of an interaction I had with them while I was in college. In my freshman year, I helped organize an activist commemoration event that was designed to honor former activists from the 60s and 70s in my local campus community near Cleveland, Ohio. For this event, I reached out to the SPLC about sending a representative to speak at our event. We made it very clear that the event was a commemoration and not a platform for any of their current causes. Despite that, the representatives spent the entire time trying to talk people into giving them money and talking about things that had nothing to do with our event. Their entire demeanor rubbed me the wrong way and soured my opinions about left-wing activists. I am much more of a centrist now as a result. Wow, real vat of acid moment for this guy.
One person makes you hate all left-wing actors. Like, okay, that's not reactive.
I mean, I will agree. They're not the cuddliest people. I agree with Heaton that the SPLC are true believers, but at some point, they are not afraid to get money for their organization, no matter how unsightly or inappropriate that method. That was my impression, at least. In the spirit of my favorite comedian advocate of horse-themed restaurants, I am always open to being wrong. Well, on his show, maybe. On this one, no, we are not wrong. It's in the name of the show. Yeah, anything. I mean, the one thing I wanted to add to the SPLC thing, I'll try to find the name of the blog, but there was a viral long read on this.
Is that the one you sent us? I can find it.
Yeah, I just need the name. It was like Bits of Money or Money in Bits or something like that. They wrote a long I assume that they are a banking industry, either reporter or writer, because the terms that they were using offhand were more of that ilk. But they were a lot more sure. Do you have the name of it?
Bitsaboutmoney.com.
Bitsaboutmoney.com. Search for their thing on the SPLC. I don't know if they've written anything separate about it. But their point of view was that this is, they're in agreement that the idea that this is donor fraud is probably specious. They make the joke that like there's a running, gag that everything is securities fraud because you can find anything that violates the fiduciary duty that the company has to shareholders. And you can say, it's securities fraud. And in that same way, he's like, well, I guess theoretically you could say that everything is donor fraud because if you do something that doesn't honor the donors. Their real point was, however, that the setting up of the bank accounts where they are lying to the bank by saying that these things are for things that they are not, and specifically that they are wiring money for good or bad to people and organizations that they themselves are putting on blacklists, is probably the thing that will wind up getting them. And in reading, it's a very long piece. So if you're not ready to get into the financial world and your attention span like mine might waver and you might have to come back to it a few times. But the whiff that I got from it was that this might just as much have been some of the banks being mad at the SPLC for pushing some of their blacklists into more of a political direction, which led them to debanking people. So that whole thing that happened over the last 10 years where people were like not allowed to have bank accounts, according to this blog, a lot of that was run by privately sourced lists, of which the SPLC was one of them. And so banks got a lot of bad press for debanking people, including the current president of the United States and his family. This might have been a pushback on that because the SPLC was doing their own dirty work and was also pushing the banks to damage their reputation with clients by way of politically minded debanking. So I found that to be an interesting thing. I sent it to you guys. Did either of you read it?
I don't think I received that. Hold on. When
it was in our group chat.
It was long.
It was very long.
I'm interested. I'll go look because I don't know any of this stuff, right? Like I can give you my very, very cursory analysis. My very, very cursory analysis was that shell corporations are legal, and I don't see anything wrong with if I own a shell corporation saying I'm the sole owner of it. So that didn't strike me, but I don't know financial regulation. It's very complicated. I'll go find that in our thread and check it out.
Yeah. The point that they're making is that, while shell corporations are legal, when you open up a bank, you cannot lie to the bank. And what they were doing was intentionally setting up duplicitous bank accounts with different names on it. And then because they're the ones that create the list of hate maps that are used by banks to keep people that are doing illicit and illegal things out of their banking system, that they were then not only lying to the bank, but then sending money to people that were on their own hate list that were not allowed to get bank accounts from these banks. And that is more the financial thing that has more teeth than the quote unquote donor fraud.
Okay.
But I thought that was an interesting thing. But before we get into plugs, Jen, this was given to us for you. This is a challenge coin.
Okay. What are we challenging?
Life and each other whenever you pull out your challenge coin at the bar. But this is from Representative Greg Steube.
Oh, I think I know who's
I think you might know who's responsible.
This. Oh, this is cool.
So you will notice on the back there is an eagle that is holding. No, on the other side.
This is from the Intelligence Committee on that side.
That is holding an AK-47 and a Florida orange branch.
Yeah, I've been in Stubby's office. This is on brand. Yep, that seems about right.
Congressional
cool.
baseball legend, Greg Steube.
Yeah. And his office was fun to see.
What's shocking that it does not have any kind of baseball representation on it, but
the Intelligence Committee side, it's holding a magnifying glass, which makes sense. What is this? Do you think it looks almost like?
I think it's like arrows. Arrows. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
And then also apparently there is a distinction with the eagle that at peacetime it faces one way, and then at wartime it faces the other way.
Oh.
And this is apparently on war footing. So Greg Steube, not playing around, my friends.
All right.
Not playing around.
Is really
Florida
cool.
Congressman Greg Steube, who was drawn out of his district with the new Florida map.
No, really?
I think he's going to, I'm speculating, but I think he's still going to run in another one. But
it's W. Greg Steube. I didn't know that he
W
had
stands for winner. We're Not Wrong is a production of Dog and Pony Show Audio. That's where you need to go if you, sorry, no, I already did that. Dog and Pony Show Audio. Will Saddleberg is our editor. On Politics this week. JD Durkin joining us from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. At the end of that interview about the American economy, astronauts show up. If you want to know what it looks like when astronauts walk through the New York Stock Exchange floor, that is the last few seconds of our interview. And then Evan Scrimshaw, we go through some of the poly market. You know, you don't have to just be an insider trader related to the war in Iran to make money on poly market. No, you can just listen to me and Evan Scrimshaw. We can give you hot tips, allocated markets that you can take advantage of. PX3 is not a financial advisor. That is all on Politics this week. Jen, what's going on? What's sizzling on the dish?
So I am in summary mode. So I just finished the March summary and now I'm working on April. April was a funny month because they had so much they had to do in Congress. And boy, did they kick a lot of deadlines. And so I'm looking through those bills to make sure that there's no evil dingleberries inside of them. So I should be done with that one pretty quick. But yeah, if you want to know what's actually happening, because they're still passing laws and shit. We just don't hear about it. That is what I'm working on over at Congressional Dish.
Mr. Andrew Heaton, there was a title for a podcast of yours that came through today, and I cannot wait to listen to it because it is one of my favorite topics.
The nonprofit industrial complex.
Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I have Steve Hodge on. formerly of the Tax Foundation, to do that. I think I'd mentioned this on the program about a month ago, and then it got bumped for another episode I did. But in effect, there are a number of situations where certain nonprofits are able to act very much like a for-profit company, but through superior marketing are able to avoid the taxes that they would pay. And that is kind of what we're talking about. I hasten to add, I'm not saying all nonprofits. I'm not saying nonprofits are bad. What I'm saying is it's bad if a for-profit corporation camouflages itself as a nonprofit. And there are ways to do that. We get into some of the granular stuff.
All right. Go get it. But if you're not a Patreon, that means this is it. All right? All right, no two ways about it. So for Jen Briney and Andrew Heaton, I'm Justin Robert Young, saying, we're not wrong. Spirit's overweight bag fee was, and no longer.
Dog and Pony Show audio.